Hey everybody, thank you for bearing with us for just a second while we get situated. If you want to go ahead and queue up your questions in the Q&A, happy to get those started for you, but we are going to start with Greg, who had a pre-submitted question that I'll be putting in the chat in just a second.
All right, and it looks like we do have Greg here. Yeah, so Greg, can you walk me through what you're trying to do exactly?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sure. You mind if I share my screen here?
Yeah, let me stop sharing my screen and go for it.
I just promoted you. You'll need to come off mute when you rejoin.
Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so basically we're working on like a side project here. Just like a sign up form. And I was wondering the best way, I wanted to have a grid style like this. So basically if you're signing up for our personal gym here at our building, then you can just select like a grid and it would change color or fill in your name type of deal. And I was wondering maybe what the best way to go about that is. Maybe I'm missing something. So I was thinking about maybe having some event buttons that would change color and then automatically display somebody's name when they clicked on it, but I'm not sure if that's possible from going down the wrong route here.
Okay. I can tinker around and see if that's possible, but it's definitely not something that I've done before. And I'm not totally sure if it's possible, but I'll hop in an active form flow and see if we have options to affect that, to affect those parts of a button. Let's see.
Want me to stop sharing and give it back to you?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about maybe a text box, but then a text box, I would need to maybe change the color of the text box. I don't know if that's possible. I'm using 7.15 version of Decision, so it's kind of an older version as well.
Yeah, because like I know we can change those things like in the form designer, and we can use CSS to change those things.
Okay.
But I'm curious because like even with CSS, I don't know if we can like dynamically change what CSS a particular text box is referencing based on, like in this case, have like if they've filled it out or not.
Gotcha.
Ooh, okay. Maybe I did just think of something that might work if we can't just directly change things, but it also probably wouldn't be too great, but I'll get to that in a second. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think looking through any of that's going to help me. So let me just go to change value. We've got form data. It's got all this button. Looks like we can do whether it's visible, enabled, or the outcome name. Doesn't look like we have any options as far as changing the styling on it, which is about what I expected. So yeah, there's nothing we can do in an active form flow to dynamically change what that button looks like. But I feel like with CSS, we should be able to set what it looks like under different like validation scenarios.
Okay.
So like you could put a validation on it that's like just the info level. So like let me hop back into this and show what I'm looking at here, because we've got validations, and let's see, we've got warning, fatal, and ignored, where fatal will stop it from continuing, and it won't let you like click save on the form until that validation is resolved. Warning will like show a message but it'll still let you continue past the form, and then ignored is pretty much just information. So I don't know. I don't know our CSS well enough to like try this out right now. This would be something to look into later. But if we could use CSS to change what something looks like when we have that ignored level validation on it, then we could potentially use that to set it to set that like text box or whatever to that ignored validation. And then the CSS says, if it's ignored, it should look like this. That's the first thing I can think of to try and get something like what you're looking for.
Is there any good links or videos on CSS integration in the forums?
I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me see what we have on the documentation website real quick. As far as CSS goes, let's see, CSS properties on form controls, using CSS in forms. So yeah, I would just look through the documentation site for our different things about using CSS. Because
Okay.
that should help you get started. And then as far as finding the actual things you would need to put in your CSS file, you can use the, like, let me see, do I have this in a flow? No, I do not. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that's the rule flow. Okay, that's fine. Let me just pull this up real quick. Test form. If I drag this in here, come on, there we go. Connect that, all right, close and save this. All right, now let me go, no, not screen, cancel that, F12, there we go. Is that, there we go, all right, let me make this usable. All right, let's see, yep, this is the one that I just changed. So if I go ahead and run this, then I can come over here in the developer tools. And I think we want elements, yeah, and then I can say, select something so we can see what's being applied to this text box.
Okay.
So when you're working on your CSS, you can find what component you'd need to be applying that CSS to based off of
Okay.
Inspecting the element with the Chrome developer tools, because that's about as much as I do with CSS usually whenever I'm working on something. It's just pull up the form, pull up this, and try and find what a particular component is being referred to as and what bit of CSS it's using, so I can make the relevant changes.
Okay. In forms, there's no way to put two buttons on top of each other or anything like that. Because I was thinking like the other route maybe, but I was thinking that if you had them both in the same cell, then you could just mess with the visibility rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for that, that's a little more. That's going to be a little complicated to set up and a little difficult to work with, but it's totally possible because we've got vertical. There we go. Because if we use a vertical stack, then we can put the buttons in there. And then let me get this stack, move that back up so that like we only see this one button. And then if we were to make button 1 invisible, then it would show button 2. So let me get a checkbox on there that I can demonstrate what that looks like. Toggle buttons. All right. So let me go into here. Let me just get rid of that one. Buttons. Vertical stack. And then when the value changes there, And then let's go ahead and get a true false rule in here. And then, where is it? Form rules, there we go. Show control, hide control. So then if it's checked, we can show button 1 and hide button 2. And group, copy, paste. Paste it too many times. Okay. Now we'll hide button 1 and show button 2. And then I need to set this, that we would pull this from form data. Let's see, there's the checkbox. And then we'd pull the value from our checkbox. So then if the checkbox is checked, we would show 1 and hide 2. And then if it's unchecked, we would show 2 and hide 1. All right, so now if I were to run this, so yeah, see, there we go.
Gotcha.
So yeah, having 2 different buttons kind of occupy the same space is definitely an option if you use that vertical stack. So they won't technically be occupying the same space. They'll both be in that vertical stack, but then the way the vertical stack manages them, you can ultimately have the effect of them occupying the same space.
Okay. And just a quick question about text boxes. You can't change the background of a text box, can you? The color?
I don't know if you can within the actual form designer, but you should be able to with CSS.
CSS, okay. All right.
Because let me go to the view and see what we've got here. Because it's got CSS class, nothing applied, and then I'd have to go through there. Let's see, control validation settings. What's that going to let us do? No issue. Oh, that's interesting. CSS class, watermark. Yeah, I'm not seeing something here that would let us set it within the form. But then, yeah, that's where CSS would get involved.
Gotcha.
And you could set the CSS to say that the background of the text box should look like this. And then you'd have to upload that CSS file. And then, let's see. And then, like, I forget if there's anything else we have to do to get it to show up here. Because let's see. Yeah, there we go. So you can choose what CSS you're using on the form as a whole. And then once you have CSS selected for that, you'd be able to choose individual components and apply particular CSS to the individual components.
Okay. All right. I think I'm on the right track now. I got to look into the CSS.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, let's see. Why does decisions fail if SAML response does not have attribute statement node? Well, this is optional in Okta. How can I fix it? I'll be honest, that is completely over my head. Let's see, do we have somebody else from decisions here? No, we do not. For that one about the SAML, I would open up a support ticket. Because yeah, this is definitely a support question, and the support team would be more equipped than I am to get you the answers about what to do with the SAML. All right, and then let's see. Is there another refresh step for a report besides the send refresh report by steps? I have a child report which is based on a report flow which correctly updates based on the parent when clicking the upper right refresh button. but it won't refresh correctly on send folder change or even clicking the refresh button on the report itself. Interesting. Caitlin, could you get Joseph as a panelist so that he can share his screen? That I can see what he's looking at.
Yeah, I have Emlyn on for hers. Do you
Okay.
want me to swap them?
Yeah, because I mean, I was just going down the list, and it looks like his was 12:05.
Yeah, Emlyn's was pre-submitted from yesterday, but she wasn't able to hop on
Okay.
the call.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that it was a pre-submitted one. I missed that one. Okay, then yeah, we can look at Emlyn's first. Let's see why scroll bar is not showing in the document viewer control when it is viewed on an iPad. That would also probably be another good one to look at with the support team. Because what's most likely happening there is that we need to put in a DT and have our product engineers look into that and figure out what's going on there to get that working again. But also, as far as I'm aware, the document viewer component uses whatever native thing your browser uses to present that document. So I'm not sure even if our product engineering team could necessarily do anything about that, because that could just be something in the way that the browser you're using on the iPad handles that document viewer. So yeah, that would be something to bring up with the support team, and they can get product engineering people involved to look into that to see if there's potentially a fix they would need to implement for that.
Okay. Oh, wow. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I think on top of that, I have 4 more questions, but I'm not too sure whether you're able to help me also. First is that is there a way for us to create a child case using the case entity?
I mean, I want to say yes, but I feel like I want you to elaborate that a little
Okay.
bit. Because like,
Alright.
do you mean you have a case entity and then you just want to have that same case entity type as like a sub case, or would you be using a different type? Because really, it doesn't matter how you actually implement it. You can do whatever you want there, because when you make an actual instance of that case entity, when you go to actually create a case, you can tell it where to save that case. So whether it's the same type or it's some other like sub case type that you make, you can just tell it to save that new case into the case folder of the parent case at that point.
Okay, so is there a way that I could present the parent and the child case into that task assignment or in the inbox? So what happened is that the requirement from our customer is to display the parent case in the inbox, and then they can have a drill down that they can open up and can view the child case. So actually, what we are looking at to implement this requirement is to have one report on the left-hand side to show the parent case. And then when you click on the parent case, then on the right-hand side, you will have the list of the child case.
Yeah, that's totally something that's doable. Because for that, you would set up just the usual parent-child report relationship, where the parent report, whatever row you select, it puts the ID of like whatever ID you need into the URL, and then the child report would be able to read that ID. And then it would update that child report based on the ID that was selected. So for instance, if you have your report showing all of the parent cases, you could have it set up so that when you select one of those parent cases, it takes its folder ID and writes that to the URL, and then the child report would read that ID, and then if you have it configured correctly to work with that ID, so like you'd have to do some stuff with the report designer for that particular report to get the parent folder ID onto the report, and then it would be able to filter based on that parent
Based
folder
on
ID
that.
matching the selected folder ID from the parent report.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll go to my second question.
Okay.
How do we ensure that the audit trail in decisions is secure? So I guess the what the customer is looking at is that what kind of encryption or security measure that we currently in place, or that is currently in place in decision, so that whatever audit trail we have in the settings, somebody that have access to the decisions database will not be able to alter those data or information.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not too sure about how that's handled.
Okay. Okay, sure. Probably get a ticket to get the support check this. Check
Yeah.
on this. Yep. Yeah, so actually the last two question is more on the security, but then also I am not too sure whether you can help us help me answer these questions. But we're just looking at there's one security findings in one of our customer that the DOMPurify and jQuery version used is not the latest one. So the recommended solution or mitigation is to upgrade or use the latest version of the DOMPurify and also the jQuery. So I'm just wondering what is the downstream impact to the decisions platform if we do this upgrade.
Yeah, that's another one that I just honestly wouldn't know.
Okay, so we'll just raise this, and
Yeah.
the last one will be the session token that is in the URL. They are asking whether it is possible to just use the cookies header to pass the session token instead of displaying it in the URL.
I'm not totally familiar with that one either.
Okay.
So, like, where's that session token coming from?
It's from an event.
Okay, yeah, that's another one. That's just something completely out of what I'm used to working with.
Okay, sure, no problem. Then probably get the support to. We'll just get the tickets from the support to answer our queries here.
Yeah.
With these 4 questions. Okay. Can I just have one last question?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So I in the decision. Okay. Currently, you are in the decision studio, right? We're using the default portal for our project. So the question that they're asking is, if you go to the portal, you will still see the tabs when you navigate to probably if you can go to the portal.
Okay.
There are default tabs, right, showing like this folder view
Mhm.
here, right? And there are this there's this set culture, set language. Is this possible to hide this?
I feel like there might be a setting somewhere. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But I do know something that we can do as a quick and easy one is if we come up here and add Chrome equals off and then enforce that.
Oh,
Then
but
we
we
like take
need
away that top bar entirely. There
the
should be a Chrome setting that can take away that top bar and leave us with the folder tree. I just don't remember all the Chrome settings off the top of my head.
oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
that's
because
what I
they
would look into.
still okay, because they still want the decisions top bar
Okay.
blue, yeah, blue color.
Mm,
It's just that they want to hide the set culture, set language, this
okay.
manage, yeah,
Gotcha.
then the folder view.
All right, let me see what we can do there. So if I go into, where do I need to go for this? Designers, into the extensions, folder behavior actions. Was that? Yeah. All right, let's see. Add entity actions configuration, add folder action configuration type name. Okay, so that's on the folders themselves. So let's just go ahead and apply. So let's just do folder. Okay. It's still all just. Can we apply it directly to just a folder? There we go, folder. All right, so let's do that. So now I've got my folder configuration extension. Let's just add, nope, not user actions validation rule, no. Access pattern and events. Any events, service. Page visibility rule. All right, action visibility rule, there we go. So let's go ahead and add an action visibility rule. And then rules with no conditions will always be evaluated true, return true to filter out this action. So do we need to specify an action, or if I do that, just leave this rule as always returning true? Okay, because I feel like that is a folder action. Yeah, it is. Okay, so then let me see. If we do set culture, edit rule, action, name equals set culture, done. Save that now. Refresh this. And there we go. Okay, cool.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
because those buttons there are generated by the right-click actions.
Yep.
So I don't know off the top of my head whether there's a setting to like disable this. So I would try and look into that, see if there is a setting that
Okay.
can just disable that altogether. But
Yep.
in the event that there's not, then what we want to do is get an action visibility rule that can hide those. And then even then we can set that to be like, let administrators see these actions or things like that. And then I would suggest trying to find some way to disable that. just because if you have other folders that have different actions on them, then you'd have to like create something to hide all of the actions and stuff. And then you get into a lot of trouble with that. So let me see if that was a thing. I would expect it to be in the portal settings here. Let's see, auto lock screen, client side, secure contacts, allow auto add, all page folder view. There's let's action location. Left, right. Okay, yeah, that's not what I was thinking it was. All right, let's see. All right, didn't see anything in portal settings. Let's see if designer studio settings. Because there's sometimes some that I would expect to be in portal are actually in here. Let's see. Great. Shift slider show actions. Okay. All right, yeah. I don't know off the top of my head a setting that would disable this. So I would reach out to support and see if they know a way to turn this little 3-dot selector here off.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Noah.
Yep.
Hello.
Hey, Joseph.
Hey.
All right, and then yeah, Caitlin, can you set Joseph to a panelist so that he can share his screen?
Yep. I just sent over the notification. Joseph, please remember to unmute yourself. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, give me a second. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So I guess the one thing to note, this is the parent report here.
Mhm.
And these are actually both kind of child. This isn't a filter, it's a report flow. But I'll just show you. If I can make this thing go away. Can you see the URL? I can't, but
I can see the URL, yeah.
so the folder or the ID here at the end.
Mhm.
So that's That's changing and then this
Okay.
is updating.
So that's updating that form, but then we needed to update on the
Uh-huh.
report as well.
And so if I go to another page, so I'm on this one, this is the ID ending
Mhm.
98F. And then if I come back, it stays as 98F. And this loads now for that. So
Okay.
now I'll switch to row 2. This didn't change, so this is still $125. We're at a new ID. I'll switch here. And now it's updated to this row
Yeah.
2.
Okay, I see what's going on.
And so this refresh isn't working. So you see that it tried reload,
Yeah.
but when I do a full refresh, then it does change. So I guess
Okay.
I'm just missing something.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the fact that it is sourced from a flow. That I think the only way to get it to rerun that flow to get the data for the report is by refreshing the page with that refresh button up there that you said was working for it. So I'm wondering, does this have to be a report? Because like the thing with the little number box there, I imagine that is a flow run part, right?
Yes.
Okay, because what you could do is, rather than having a report that's sourced from a flow, is have a flow that gets the data and then passes it to a form that has an advanced data grid on it. Because that advanced data grid would look and act
Look
like
the
a
same
report.
thing. Yeah.
And then you could have that flow rerun the same way you're getting the one with the number picker to rerun.
Fair enough. That would work. Yeah. I could do
Yes,
that.
that's how I personally would go about trying to solve for that.
All right. And then is there a way to add another parameter up here without it being on from like a row click in the settings? So some sort of step or something.
So what would you want to trigger adding that value?
Well, preferably I'd like to add another form flow part here.
Okay.
And then that upon like a click up here, it would throw a new parameter, which would filter a report.
All right, let me look through our step catalog, see if there's anything that can help out here. Because I know that we have a step that can add those, but that's more so. Let's see. Ooh, update URL parameters, specify parameters. Ooh, okay. So can you put together like a quick flow with a form in it that we can see if it'll work for your use case?
Sure.
Because we do have a step that we can try, because we've got the end form session step. And then it looks like one of the options on there is update URL parameters. So I'm curious if using that, we'd be able to push a new parameter in there. Or if it'll only update parameters that are already there.
So I'll just throw a button in the text box. So what is that step?
It's called end form session. So you just plug that into the search box up there. Yeah. And then that's got update URL parameters at the bottom there. And then you can click the specify parameters, and then let's try and add a parameter with a value there. Okay, that just updates it. Oh, no, there we go. There's where we can set an input on it. Cool. And then it looks like somebody else suggested set page parameter, which I'm not familiar with that step, and it looks like it's not one of the ones that's indexed for searching. So whoever suggested set page parameter, do you know where in the toolbox we can find that step?
Got it.
Okay, cool.
Page context. Is the page context
Ooh.
the folder where the page is?
Yeah, I'm not sure where we'd get that value from. I think if we make the flow folder aware, that's something that would come with the flow. Because yeah, it's not just the folder ID.
Okay. Or is it the page ID?
Like, I don't even think it's necessarily the page ID either. Like, this is some background value that Decisions uses.
Okay.
So let's just see if that end form session works first, and then if it doesn't, we can look into the set page parameter.
Should be.
Did you save the change to the page? Okay. There we go.
Did that
Hey, there we
appear?
go.
I can't see it.
All right, that worked. Yeah, I see it.
All
I
right.
see test param
Cool.
equals do you see this?
Sweet. Yeah, I think I can make something happen with that. So.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So next, I see we've got, can you demonstrate how can we get data type properties by type name? And it'll take me a bit to find it, but I know there is a step for it. So the answer is yes. It's just going to take me a little bit. All right, let's see. Integration, I think it's in internal services. The actions, edit service, no. Because it's something that I actually have done before, and you're able to like give the step the whole type name, and then it'll list like all of the properties and the types of those properties. But I did that like back when I first started, so that was almost 4 years ago now. And I've not done that since. So it'll take me a bit to poke around and try and find that again, especially since I don't have the project locally anymore. Let me see if I can find where we do have it. Let's see. All right, I'll let that do that. Search here. Generator. Let's see. If I go here. Oh, that one. There we go. Looks like it's gonna have it. Oh, cool. That finally loaded. Let's see. The configuration storage, is that it? No. IDs, configuration data. No, it doesn't fit. Ooh, data structure. Is it in there? Let's see. Get all folder IDs, get all unregistered .NET types. Get data structure by name. Okay, we can try that one. Get decisions type by full name. We can try that one. Get define data structure info. What does that want? It wants a full name. Okay, so we can try that one too. Session user context, data structure. All right, so there we go. That's good. This is a couple that we can work with. So now let me come in here and let me add an input to this guy. We'll call it account because that will let me grab all of that. Copy that because this one's a full name. Yep. All right, go to the end there. Dot account. So that should be the full type name as far as I'm aware. And let's see how this goes. So there goes that one. There goes that one. And there goes that one. All right. And then if I run this, all the steps worked. All right, let's see. Full name, account. Okay, that's not at all what I wanted. What's this one giving us? Ooh, all right. That seems to be information about the actual, like where the data type is stored. Properties. Full name, string, data type, string, name, account ID. It's a string. If we look down here, account picture ID, it's a string. If we keep going, account type, type, name type of account. Administrator view only, Boolean. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Looks like this is the one we want. Is this last one here? Get defined data structure info. And then I found that. by going into integration, internal services, and then into the data structure service, because that's going to be steps related to the data structures. And then that was get defined data structure info. And you give that the full type name. So it's going to be that whole name separated by dots. So decisions framework, service layer, services, accounts. Account is where the actual like definition of the account object lives. And so from taking that, we're able to pass that name into this. And then that gave us a breakdown of all of the properties that are on that object and what type those properties are, what the names are. Can you use those properties in a flow? You're going to have to elaborate on what you mean by can you use those properties in a flow? Because yeah, like what we get out of here is this defined type info object. So like all the stuff that we saw coming out of there, we'd have in the flow as data that we can work with. Yeah, you could output that on the end step if you wanted to, because that's get defined data structure info 1. So if I go ahead and run this, and now if we look at the output, we can see that the output from this flow was the output from that step. And then, yeah, we've got the 69 properties of the account object, and this gives us pretty much all the information we could possibly need about the given properties. And then this data exists in the flow, so you'd be able to do whatever you needed to with this data. Just the properties as a list of strings. Okay, yeah, so what we can do for that is if I were to come over here and let's see, where do we find that? Yeah, here we go. All right, so if I just want to set this to be a string list, properties, save that. Bam, bam. All right. So then if I come over here and we look at the info and we look at properties, and then let's see, let's do all display names, see what that gets us. So now if I run this and we look at the output from here, there's all of the individual property names. So we can see all of the properties that exist on that object. And then if you wanted to know what type they were, you could use like a data pair or a key value pair or just some kind of string merging to get those values together that you could see account ID is a string. So you could take the output from this step and use whatever mapping logic you want, like a list mapping step or going through a loop or something to generate an output that would tell you account ID is a string, account picture ID is a string, administrator view only is a Boolean. But if you're just wanting the property names, you can definitely just grab that because because something that I really find handy is when you have a list of objects, like in this case, this data description object, you're able to generate a list of any of its properties and then have that as its own separate list. So like just by going into the data picker here, picking the output from that step, picking the properties list on that, and then picking all display name, now I've got a string list that is all of the display name properties across all of the objects in this properties list. So yeah, if you just want the properties name, that's really easy to get from there. But then also if you just want property names, there is somewhere else that we can go for that, I think, because if we go into data, it's in advanced. There we go, get property names on object. Let's see what that does for us. Oh, okay, for that one, you wouldn't have, you wouldn't be giving it the type name, you'd be giving it an actual object. So let me go ahead and get an account object there. Let me just fetch an account by ID. That might be better because that one, it might come down to whether or not data is populated or something. So you get accounts. No. All right, that's fine. Integration. Internal services, account service. Get by ID. Bam. Okay. And then I can come over here, close out of this, close out of this. Come over here, security, accounts, manage, get account ID, copy that, put that there. And then now I can pass in that account object that we retrieved by ID. And let's see what our output from this step is. Okay, yeah, so we can get property names that way as well. If you do want just property names, we do have the get property names on object step. And that's going to be in data advanced. And then for that one, you do need to give it an object. So if you have an actual object, like for this case, an account in your flow that you want to see what the properties on it are, you can use this step. But then if you don't have the actual object, you just have the type name, then you can use this other step here, the get defined data structure info, because that will take the type name and then get you that information in that defined type info object. So yeah, those are the two ways off the top of my head that I would use to get the property names from a given object. All right, and that gets us to 12:59. So it's about time to wrap this up. Thank you all for coming and having lots of great questions ready to go. This was definitely a really good lunch and learn. I hope you guys think so too. It was great getting to work through all these different things with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Noah.